You've seen spooky Frankenstein movies, you've seen gory Frankenstein movies, and you've seen funny Frankenstein movies, but have you seen any stylish Frankenstein movies? Out of the 84 Frankenstein movies that I watched during the past month, I found 7 that were stylish enough to inspire me to share them with you. In this video, we're going to look at how style enhances and accentuates storylines. Style can add a lot to a movie. It can draw you in by creating the right mood, it can give you hints about what's coming or convey hidden meaning, or it can just keep you fascinated with stimulating visuals. So, working our way from the simplest to the most complex and most interesting, let's jump right in. At number 7 on our list, Young Frankenstein, starring Gene Wilder, Marty Feldman, Peter Boyle, and more. Released in 1974, it was one of the earlier Frankenstein comedies, and it was the first one that attempted to do a straightforward parody of the original 1931 film. And in true parody form, they not only replicated but embellished the look and feel of that film. The attention given to the calligraphy of the opening credits lets us know that this is going to be a feast for the eyes. And even the castle on the hill is more highly stylized than in the original film. In fact, it looks a bit like the architecture of Prague's Old Town, which is a really unique architectural style. Every detail of this skeleton is carefully planned to delight and amuse. Check out the eyes carefully set in their sockets. Are skeletons supposed to have eyeballs? And look at that ornate box with the Frankenstein crest and the elaborate embroidery of the pillow. In this scene, the spinning of the train car is an effective device not only to show the passage of time, but to let us know that we're about to enter another world. Another impressive transition is this one, where the approach to the castle gives way to the entrance of the courtyard. And the laboratory itself is both spooky and fascinating with its antiquated lab equipment. We can tell from this that we're going to be leaving modern science behind and delving into the world of Frankenstein's infamous ancestor. But back in the dining room, everything is elegant and luxurious, a clear delineation between the underworld of the dungeon-like laboratory and the everyday environment. And what could be more elegant than Frankenstein's monster performing the old soft shoe in tails and top hat? How about Dr. Frankenstein projecting his violin music across the village via the amplifying horn of a phonograph? And Madeline Kahn as Frankenstein's fiancée Elizabeth almost has a better Bride of Frankenstein look than the original bride herself. But more than stylish, Young Frankenstein is a hilarious parody, and if you haven't seen it yet, what are you waiting for? At number 6 on our list is the Rocky Horror Picture Show, starring Tim Curry, Susan Sarandon, Meatloaf, and more. Released in 1975, this cult film is all about style. From its catchy musical highlights to outrageously extravagant costumes to the saturated colors, this movie has it all. Right from the moment the opening credits start to roll, we know we're in for a visual treat. The blood-dripping font style and that mouth that mimics trademarks used by both Mick Jagger and Alice Cooper back in the day lets us know that this movie is going to be a roller coaster ride filled with laughs and music. As soon as we enter the castle, we're treated to some campy furnishings, like this cobweb-covered American Gothic painting and a coffee-shaped grandfather clock sporting a human skull. The furnishings serve both to amuse and to let us know that something spooky is afoot. Color also plays a big role in the furnishings, and the main color here is red. The same red as the paint that Hammer Productions used for blood in their horror films. Fashion also plays a big role, especially the clothes worn by the star Tim Curry as a transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. Here we see him in corset and garters with the makeup to go along with it. And if Brad and Janet weren't aware before that they were entering another world, they sure are now. The space aliens who take over at the end show their true colors with their costumes. Wish I could find a wig like that. Motion and choreography are a big part of the film, and everything is over the top. This movie is about exaggerating everything Frankenstein and taking it into a campy realm. When you finish watching this movie, you may not have learned anything new, but you have definitely been entertained. Now, moving on to number 5 on our list, we have the Japanese film from 2009, Vampire Girl vs. Frankenstein Girl. And if you thought Rocky Horror was a weird movie, things are about to get a lot weirder. The opening lets us know that this is a love story of sorts. The focus on nicely wrapped presents not only shows the importance of Valentine's Day, but also tells us something about Japanese culture. I don't really know much about Japanese culture, but from all the nicely wrapped presents, I can guess that just like in Thailand, where I have spent some time, the wrapping of the present is more important than the present itself. And the way the presents are offered and received are important too. Watch how the wrapping unfurls like a flower opening up. And then, as soon as Jugon eats the chocolate, he goes on a psychedelic trip featuring flowers and circulatory systems. And flowers made up of circulatory systems. Could this be a story about vampire love? The single drop of blood on Monami's lip is a pretty good confirmation. That drop of blood, by the way, becomes an important element of the film, and even animates and is used to animate other creatures, including Monami's romantic rival, Keiko, the Frankenstein girl. The sexual undertone of this film, which is basically a parody of Japanese teen culture, is again underscored by this shot, which is reminiscent of that famous shot from the 1967 film The Graduate, starring Dustin Hoffman and Anne Bancroft. The shot also introduces us to the fashion sense in the movie, which is all about frills, hats, and bows, a little girl look that is diametrically opposed to the precocious behavior of the girls. But when Frankenstein girl is preparing for all-out war against her rival, her costume takes on a more practical, but still fashionable appearance. And the pseudo-Dr. Frankenstein character takes on the appearance of an African witch doctor, while playing some spinal chords on his vertebral guitar before getting down to doing his voodoo. And his assistant, the school nurse? She reflects the sexual undertone of the movie with her own sexy nurse costume. Even the Frankenstein monsters in this movie are stylish. This Dr. Frankenstein doesn't seem so much interested in recreating human life as in creating living works of abstract art. Blood and love are integral themes of the movie, and this bloodbath, or blood shower, is just one of the ways that this is highlighted. And here, the motion shows our lovebirds lost in love. The same spinning action is used to reveal the love object of the rivals, crucified on the altar of love. The battle for his love has become so important to the girls that he has no choice in the matter. That sure reminds me of a lot of older movies where the girl is in the same position. Think duels in old silent films as an example. And finally, this is an interesting way to show the passage of time and everything that Vampire Girl has lived through in her long time among the living dead. And the choice of headline seems to be making a statement about the victims of the bomb. The survivors must have felt that they were among the living dead in the early days. And I think it says something about the dehumanization of the Japanese in the immediate aftermath of the bombing and the effect that may have had on their culture later on. Or am I reading too much into it? Back in the 1970s, it seemed like everyone was getting in on the Frankenstein act. And Frankenstein comedy enjoyed its heyday in this decade. Even Andy Warhol, a pop artist most widely known for his paintings of a Campbell soup can, capitalized on the Frankenstein theme with our next movie, number 4 on the list, 1973's Flesh for Frankenstein. And the style of the movie reflects Warhol's public persona. Set in Serbia, the film is a tongue-in-cheek mockery of the sexual mores of the church and the hypocrisy of society. From the opening scene where Frankenstein's children are chopping the heads off dolls with a miniature guillotine, we know that this is also a film about lost innocence. Not only of the children, but of the monster himself, who starts off as a candidate for the monastery.
I want to live a cloistered life.
You mean walk around in those robes and pray all the time?
I will do it.
The length of the family's dinner table and the sheer length of time that it takes for the servant to go from one end to the other highlights the emotional distance between Baron Frankenstein and his wife, which is a recurring theme in the movie. Other purely visual touches include this scene where the fanned ruffle on Baroness Frankenstein's nightdress matches the fanning of the headboard where she will bed her lover. And the sutures on the creatures have an almost artistic, unrealistic look to them, even with the red paint blood leaking out. Could that red paint be an homage to Andy Warhol's famous Campbell soup can? The two creations of Baron Frankenstein, male and female, who are to mate and create a new race, are dressed in appealing corsets that mimic the rib cage of the human anatomy and could only be improved upon if Adam had one less rib than Eve. And finally, this disembodied pair of lungs, breathing in and out, is reminiscent of the opening of a flower blossom and perhaps symbolizes the blossoming of the new race that Frankenstein envisions. Now we're going to move on to number 3 on the list, 2015's Victor Frankenstein, starring Daniel Radcliffe and James McAvoy. This movie is so stylish that you'd almost have to see the whole thing to appreciate everything that went into it. but we're just going to take a look at some of the highlights. The movie starts out in a circus setting and takes advantage of that to introduce the fascination of the hunchback clown Igor with human anatomy as shown in these scenes where the trapeze artist's movements are illustrated anatomically in his notebook and show us how he sees the world. Even the lions' cages are highly stylized with wrought iron spikes and carved wooden posts, and the shift in camera angles makes us question who the real captives are, the lions or the spectators, and later, Igor or Victor Frankenstein. This imagery is a foreshadowing of the shifting nature of their professional and personal relationships. The city itself is shown in its two opposing elements. The old world wonder and beauty competes with the incoming industrial age, but the city maintains its beauty through the combination of the grainy texture representing the grime of the city with the muted tones that subtly emphasize its color and gaiety. Even the desolate hospital manages to attain a level of tranquil beauty and elegance by using the same technique. And in this overhead shot of the casino rotating along with the roulette wheel, we have the notion that Igor's fortune and focus are about to change as he makes his way through the crowd to Lorelei, the trapeze artist, as a new man with a straight back. And this complimentary overhead shot is a beautiful testament to just how completely his fortune has changed. His physical transformation gives him a new lease on life in more than one way, as we can see by this line of wanted posters looking for a murderous hunchback. The sheer repetition of the posters underscores the permanence of the change. Victor Frankenstein's laboratory has an old world, almost steampunk quality that takes us into another world, a magical world where almost anything can happen. And the simple elegance of the old world instruments give the look and feel of a medieval alchemist's lab. Even the monsters that Frankenstein creates, while hideous, still maintain something of this old world charm. Contrast this with the new lab of his corporate sponsor, which plunges us immediately into a Gotham-like world where we just know things are going to take a turn for the worse. Although the building itself is ancient, all of its fittings have a much more modern and industrial look, where efficiency and production are maximized at any cost. And even the creature that's created here is devoid of any sense of a soul, much like the capitalistic machine it represents. But perhaps Frankenstein hasn't completely sold out because the hot air balloons he uses to attract electricity harken back to his old world origins, and maybe his initial motivations for his experiments. The second most stylish film on our list is 2024's Lisa Frankenstein, starring Catherine Newton and Joshua Montez. This is another film that lets us know right with the opening credits that we're going to be seeing something really special. There's a history. There's introspection, there's culture, there's romance, there's adventure, and there's a little bit of horror. The mood is set by this early scene at the cemetery where Lisa's leaning against a tombstone that has almost a soft and comforting look to it. The misty greens of the forest highlight her almost spiderweb-like hair, which belie her connection with the underworld. Every time we come back to the cemetery, the mood is slightly different. The Spanish moss lets us know it's still an eerie place, but everything is clearer, more sharply in focus, as Lisa gains in confidence and gains a better understanding of herself and her goals. Transitions are used to great effect in this film. Here's one example where Lisa's emotional state and her fantasy world are reflected in a shift from color to black and white. Scenes in black and white are used to show Lisa's inner world, such as this memory inspired by the photo of her deceased mother, or this seemingly romantic fantasy that's revealed as her flirtation with death itself. In sharp contrast to this is the brightly colored house of Lisa's stepmother. Both inside and out, it's practically a Barbie dream house where the focus is on everything that is bright, beautiful, and positive, and there's no room for Lisa to mourn the loss of her mother or deal with her own trauma. And when Lisa starts opening up to life a bit more, she develops her own style and begins to fit in more and even outshine her stylish high school with these fantastic Valentine's Day red lockers. And in this scene at her favorite cemetery, if she looks more like she's dressed for a funeral than a wedding, there's a reason for that. But I won't give the ending away. Let's just enjoy one last elegant transition. Can you imagine a better honeymoon? And now we come to the most stylish Frankenstein movie of all, a 2021 film called Frankenstein, directed by Costas Zapas in Greece. This one lets you know you're in for a visual treat right from the very beginning. The entire film is done in a sepia tone that lends a somber mood. The scenery is characterized by lines and grids, geometrical designs and ordered patterns, letting us know that there's an order to everything, a plan. And we spend most of the movie trying to figure out what that plan might be. Some of the scenes add a touch of color a la Schindler's List to draw our attention to people and things that might be important, like the poster behind Adele, or these twins that she's interviewing. In this scene, the darkness of the lower floor contrasted with the sunlight pouring in from the open holes gives us a hint as to the identity of the woman. She's Justine, who, if you're familiar with the story, has been unjustly hanged for the murder of young William Frankenstein. She now inhabits the dark underworld while maintaining a connection with the world of the living. I'm sure I've seen a scene like this in Interview with the Vampire. And that association gives this place a bit more gravitas and makes us wonder where this is going. Even a seemingly ordinary setting like this abandoned street gives off an ominous vibe, which is emphasized by the posters of screaming faces. Faces that we've seen before. Of course, it doesn't hurt that someone is literally dragging a body across the shot. And notice a spooky cross in the car's hatchback. I don't know why, but crosses are always scary in horror films, aren't they? There's more ominous foreshadowing in the focus on the slow-moving clouds over the camper and in the sinister mushrooming shadow following Adele. And notice that it takes the shape of a sort of malevolent grim reaper. And even the posters for the Frankenstein play seem to be saying, "We're watching you." Adele is sometimes shown as a poster-style character blending in with the background, letting us know that there's something unreal about all this, almost as if she were a character in a play that she's writing about. In this side-by-side shot of Adele and the man who's been tailing her, we see subtle signs of gender reversal. Adele with her short, slick-back hair and somewhat masculine attire, and the mystery man with his ruffles. This is underscored in another scene where we see Adele with her female lover. And this is not by accident. In fact, that scene and the sliding reveal in this shot let us know that things are not the way they appear to be and lead to a revelation regarding a role reversal to the usual Frankenstein storyline. It's an interesting twist, and one that I promise you won't see coming. Or at least I didn't. Which of these movies did you find most stylish? Let me know in the comments. And for more on Frankenstein in the movies, click here.